I think you're going to find this to be much easier than the other form of interest that we're going to study starting tomorrow called compound interest. But tell me, first of all, what is interest? I know you've heard of it. You've probably used it in some sense in terms of like speaking. You've said it before. What does it mean? Jack? It costs more money. Okay, so from like you say, you're like borrowed money. Yeah. Okay, that works. Jack? You're not gonna get rich on it. You gain money. Okay. So Jack Nichol's example was okay. If you borrow money, you're gonna have to pay more. And Jack Saperstein saying, well, it can work the other way. You can actually benefit from that. Okay. Julian? Mm-hmm. Yeah. It. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and depending on the type of loan, the type of account, like Julian said, it doesn't have to be in a bank. Well, it has to be some sort of lending institution or financial institution. Now, that could be you, all right? You could lend somebody money and be like, listen, yeah, I'll lend you $100, but you owe me interest on it, all right? And then you could set the rules and say, okay, I'm going to charge you interest, this much interest every day, every week, every month, every year, however you want to do it, okay? But there has to be some sort of either some destination, some lending institution, or some place where you're putting your money, okay? So interest, got a couple of examples, or a couple of definitions I want you guys to just jot down here. So the formal definition of interest is the amount of money paid or earned. The two examples we saw, one says, yeah, you're going to owe extra money. The other one says, well, you could also earn extra money. I agree with both of those. And that brings us to something called an interest rate. Now, the interest rate is the percentage that you'll see. Okay, you probably see commercials or advertisements where it talks about something called APR. All right? Does anyone know what APR, the acronym, stands for? It'll be like it's 5% APR. Annual percentage rate. Exactly. That's your interest rate. So that would be the percent that you're getting charged or earning on some sort of account. Okay, so if it's 5% APR, that means you're getting charged 5% additionally per year, annually, right? So an interest rate is always given in the form of a percentage. The next word is principal. Does anybody know what principal means? Not Mr. Wolfson, no. He doesn't have anything to do with this. Anybody? It's the amount of money that you either put in or you borrow. Okay, so the principal is the money. How much money did you borrow from the bank? How much money did you put into your savings account? Right? The last thing is simple interest, and that's what we're going to be calculating today. Simple interest is just interest calculated on only the principal. And until you see compound interest, you probably aren't going to understand fully what simple interest looks like, but that's okay. You guys can go. All right, so general formula. A very basic formula that we're all capable of working with here. I equals PRT. We're going to go down part by part here. I in a shocking revelation, I'm sure, stands for interest. And that would be in terms of money. That's not the percent. That's just how much money is earned or how much money has accrued over time. The P here is the principal, like how much money are you investing. The R is the rate, like interest rate. That will be in decimal form. Just like our percent equation where we always put our percent in decimal form. And the last one here is T. This is time. But time can take many forms. Time, when you're using our simple interest formula, is always given in terms of years in this general formula. So for instance, if I told you it was over the course of 3 years, then T would equal 3. If it was 5 years, T would equal 5. If it was 6 months, T would equal 0.5 or 1/2, right? So you have to convert it to whatever, or convert it to years, depending on what it measured in. All right, now let's just apply it. Let's just go through and start trying some of these examples here. All right, you take your first loan out. You're borrowing $1,500. The interest rate you were given was 4.75%. And you're going to borrow this money over the course of 3 years. Okay? So we want to figure out how much interest has this loan earned over the course of the 3-year period. Well, again, we're going right back to our formula here. We don't know how much interest has been earned, so that's our unknown. We know our principal, $1,500. What's our rate? Amelia? Yeah, we want our decimal, so it would be okay. T is what? Fin? Which is 3, right. So what do we end up with? Go ahead, Sarah. 213.75. All right, so what's that mean in terms of this loan? Let's say this was, let's say you had like an uncle, and you're like, hey, I need to borrow money, and he lends you $1,500, but he's like, I'm charging you interest, 4.75%. I'm going to give you 3 years to pay this thing off. What's this mean then? Quinn? Yeah, so then that means you've actually paid him how much? And along with, because if he lends you $1,500, so here, if he gives you this deal, says, okay, I'm going to lend you $1,500, all you have to do is pay me back $213.75. You take that deal 100 times out of 100, okay? You'll never get a better deal than that. All right, but you don't owe him $213.75. How much do you owe him? Isaac? Yeah, you got to pay him his original, but then you're also paying him that additional $213. So at the end of 3 years, this loan will have cost you $1,713.75. All right, that's what interest does. It adds to the amount that was originally borrowed or loaned. Okay, so that's the amount. And from there, we can end up calculating monthly payments and things like that. Which, why don't we just explore that quickly? But let's say, okay, you plan to make monthly payments to your uncle. You're like, listen, I don't want to get too far behind here. I want to make a monthly payment. I'm going to pay you every month for 3 years. How much money would you be paying him every month for those 3 years? It's just one calculation from here. How much is it? Leah? What is it again? How'd you get that? There you go. Yep. So, go ahead, Sarah. What do you have? How much is it? More than that. You're gonna owe more than that. Ellie? Does that sound right? I don't have this number in my head. What is it? 47. Okay. There's your monthly payment. Now, if you make sure you pay him $47.60 every month for 36 months, by the end of those 36 months, you will have paid all that off. Okay. When you make monthly payments, your interest is already factored in to the amount. The loan time, the duration is already predetermined. Okay. So you could factor that in and you know you're paid it off. All right. All right. Turn it over. Let's talk about another time. Oop. Yep. The way I worded it, yeah, the answer there, sorry if I can find it, should have been 213. I just went a step further just so you can see. Now, here's another one. Now, I'm going to give you some pointers here. You guys probably have some sort of savings account, all right? Some that you might have access to, maybe others that you do not have access to, like maybe like college funds and things like that. But let's say you just have a simple savings account and you want to put money into it. You had a nice windfall of money here. You got $3,000 and you're like, I'm going to put that into my savings account. Great. But I'm going to let it just sit there. And I'm going to make money on this thing. All right? I'm just going to let it sit there. I'm not going to touch it because it's going to earn interest. And I'm going to get rich off of this money. Okay? We're going to see how that works. All right? So a simple savings account. You can see here that it's giving you 0.05% rates. They're not going to give you like 5% interest rates on a savings account. That's ridiculous. That's way too much money. They don't want to pay you that money. So they come up with a very minuscule amount, something like 0.05%. Okay? So you're trying to figure out how long your money was in there in order for you to earn the hefty amount of $3.75. Now take a look at this. So the interest is $3.75. You deposited $3,000 at an interest rate of 0.05%. But how do I put 0.05%? It's not 0.05. Mikey? Close. Yeah, a lot of O's there. All right. And the more O's you have there, the less you're getting. All right. Just think about that. All right. And then times T, we don't know how long that's going to take. Now, you probably, based on your theory before, like, oh, yeah, I'm just going to put money in there and get rich. You're thinking, oh, the time or the amount of time should be days, right? I'm going to make like that much in a couple of days. Well, let's see. Solve that equation for T. Remember, the number you get is in years, not days, not minutes. How long is it going to take you? Isaac, what do you have? Time is equal to 2.5. You put $3,000 in the bank. You let it sit there. You don't touch it. 2.5 years later, you're going to be all right. Basically, you earn $375 over the course of 2.5 years, given these parameters right here. So, lesson learned: don't invest into a simple savings account and expect to make a lot of money on it. You're not going to. All right, you're going to make pennies. All right, that's not the best way to invest. A lot of other ways to invest. That's not the way to do it. Savings accounts are great for holding your money, right? But in terms of like expecting to further that money, not really such a great idea. Okay. All right, let's try to get this one more in before we go. Now, Sydney borrows money from a friend, charged interest at a rate of 7%. All right. So Sydney's friend is charging him 7% interest. Okay. Must not be a great friend. Or Sydney must have poor credit, or he doesn't trust him. 18 months later, Sydney has paid his friend back, but he owed him $36.75 in interest. We want to know how much Sydney initially borrowed from his friend, given all of that information. Now you have the time, you've got the rate, and you've got the interest already labeled for you. So plug those numbers into your simple interest formula and come up with your amount here. $36.75. That would be your interest, though. That not your principal. You're trying to find the principal. It's going to be okay. The time though isn't 1.6. It's 1 year 6 months, but 6 months as a decimal wouldn't be. 6 months is a half of a year. Half of a year would be what as a decimal? Yeah, so you got to change that to a 0.5. Mm-hmm. Let's make sure you put the numbers in the correct locations in your formula here. The $36.75 was the amount of interest extra. The principal is the unknown. The rate is 7%, but you don't want to enter it in as 7. It's 0.07. And the time, 18? 1.5, right? 18 months is 1.5 years. Remember, everything's relative to years. So you have that formula right there. Most of you probably combined 1.5 and 0.07, and then divide 36.75 by that product. What did you come up with for how much Sydney initially borrowed? Isaac? That's $350. So when it's all said and done, he will have paid him back $350 along with $36.75. So it's $386.75 is what he ends up paying for that loan as a penalty for borrowing that money. All right. Why don't we try this last one while we're here? So labeled as a challenge because there are a couple steps to it. All I want to do is give you the details, and then you can take it, and I'll walk around and see if you came up with it. We talked about monthly payments. Phoebe borrowed a car and spent bought a car, borrowed $12,500 for the car. Her monthly payment is $234.38. So every month she's writing a check for that much for 60 months. We want to know what was the interest rate that was calculated, or that this loan was calculated on. So go ahead and give it a shot. You guys can talk it over with each other, share some ideas. Okay. So after walking around checking your answers, see some of the common mistakes. One of the things is that we're converting our 60 months into 5 years too quickly. Like we're getting 5 years and we're then taking it multiplied by the monthly payments. Remember, guys, these are monthly payments. So what we want to do is figure out how much Phoebe has paid over the 60 months. She's paying $234 every month for 60 months. If you multiply those out, you get $14,062.80. But she only initially borrowed $12,500. So if we subtract these two, you'll see that she earned, I shouldn't say earned, she's going to lose $1,562.80 on interest. That's how much extra money she has to pay on top of the $12,500. So take the interest, 0.8, equal to the principal. Now the principal is the original amount borrowed, times the rate, which we don't know, times the time. Here's where you convert 60 months into 5 years, times the rate. All I did was reverse those two. All right, so now we got to solve this equation for R. And we've done this before. Maybe combine your terms here. So 1,562.80 is equal, this becomes 62,500 times whatever the rate is. Divide both sides by 62,500. And you come up with an answer that's approximately 0.025. It's like 0.0249 something or whatever, I'll round it. But remember, this is the interest rate in decimal form. So we must convert it back into percent form, which is a multiplication by 100, which makes this 2.5%. So she was charged 2.5% interest on this loan over 60 months. And you could check it by plugging it back into your formula, like interest equals principal rate time. Maybe you put this in here. You take your principal, your 12,500, you put it here. You put 5 in for T, multiply those out, and you should get a number that matches this number right here. Okay? So now you can see how it's kind of applied to a real life scenario like that. Like buying a car is an everyday occurrence in our society here. So buying a car is something that we need to understand where the money comes from and then how much extra you're going to have to pay. All right, good. Thank you.